Hey guys, happy Friday. Welcome to your Max Allure, your Fridays in your Max Allure week. I hope that you had a great time. I'm Dr. Myrdalis Diaz Ramirez, creator of the Design Your Physician Life podcast, your personal professional development program called Max Allure Mastermind, that is for physicians who want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Maybe some physicians who are burnout are looking for a solution to their burnout. It can also be for physicians who are starting a business or who are already in a business and they want to make it, like to ramp up or really launch it in a very great way. And this week in our Design Your Physician Life podcast, we had Dr. Devon Kimball, and she's going to be here joining us shortly, we're hoping, because she's going to tell us some of her secrets on how to leverage expenses as assets. And as a business owner, I have to tell you that we have so many expenses all the time to maintain a clinic like this. It can be really thousands of dollars a month. And having this alternative that she teaches other physicians can be, a great way. In our practice, I can tell you that right now the group has decided to focus on cash flow. And at the beginning of the business, you might want to do that more than maybe focusing on this other way that we're going to be learning shortly about. There's some credit cards that the business can take, and we can have some cash back, and some of them will give 1% up to 2%, and depending on how many expenses you have for that month or for that period of time that they're giving the offers. So in our case, we have one of those. We've learned some more details through our Design Your Physician Life podcast episode this week with Dr. Devon Kimball that was released on Tuesday, that you can actually obtain a higher level of return if you're going to be spending converting those to points that would be turning out into traveling assets, which is what she's going to be talking to us about. Hey Boyd, how are you today? Thank you for being here. Let me see, we're waiting for Dr. Kimball, and we hope that she joins us very shortly. I was in communication earlier with her. She actually has been a dermatopathologist, and that's how she trained, and now she's teaching others about this type of levering your expenses as assets. And she's been wonderful. She has a group, it's called Point Me to First Class. You can find that on Facebook. You can find her website also. It's called the same way, Point Me to First Class. And she really has done wonderful things in terms of the way that she travels now. She says that she doesn't travel at all by the normal ways. She just goes either first or business class. So thank you everybody for being here. She's going to be here shortly, and I want to invite you to do #live, #replay. She's going to be joining us, and then we're going to be talking about that. So I can tell you a little bit of what she told us in our Design Your Physician Life podcast, and I invite you to go. It's called Design Your Physician Life podcast. And what I say that because at any stage in our lives we can redesign our physician lives. You can redesign your vision. Doesn't matter where you are in your stage in life. We have in our mastermind, we have people who have just started their career as physicians, who have not even done the residency, and we have people who have retired and come back from retirement to do medicine, and they are in our mastermind, and they can design their physician lives at any time. And as part of that, we know that there's many things. We all have different interests, different things that we like to do, and that's why we bring these resources like Dr. Kimball is going to be here shortly with us, because if you have a business, and even she did this even when she didn't have a business, they were already leveraging their expenses as assets. They were getting everything into this type of credit cards, and then they were already traveling in this way. And as I said earlier, like, we have a business, and the business, depending on the stage of the life, the stage of your business. If it's a startup, you might want to focus more on cash able to travel in so many ways that people only dream of, using very, very little cash once they're able to do these things. We're still waiting for Dr. Gimbo. I'm hoping that she arrives shortly. So I want to tell you that if you are a physician and you feel overwhelmed, there you go. So if you're a physician who's overwhelmed, who feels tired of what's happening with the transitions in the systems, I invite you to this podcast and think about entrepreneurship. You can really redesign your vision, as I said, and that's one of the things that Dr. Gimbo was talking to us. She is not only now an entrepreneur, she went through a period of time where she didn't think that medicine was going to be there anymore for her. And she is now chosen that medicine is not the thing that she's going to be doing. Many of us really want to keep physicians in practice, and we do all these things to really. So I'm looking for a place with a better reception, and I think I might have found it. But we want good physicians to take care of us. We need physicians to take care of our communities, and the efforts that we're trying to do here through the Design Your Physician Life podcasts are precisely for that, so that we can keep our physicians being able to practice for joy and not for need. And if you're able to enjoy life like Dr. Devon Gimbo has been able to do through these strategies that she has for leveraging her expenses as assets, then you're happier and you can come back to your patients, or you can come back to your clients, whatever type of effort you have as a physician going on. You can be happier doing that. Let me see if we have her here. Not yet. There's a Susan Lee. I don't know if this is Dr. Devon's link, but Susan Lee is asking to come in. We're waiting for Dr. Devon Gimbo to come and join us. So, things that we learned in our podcast, Design Your Physician Life with Dr. Gimbo. First, was that about the vision. As a physician, she wanted to redefine herself. She wanted to see what else she could do. And she learned, from a very young age that she wanted to be a physician. But at the end, after practicing for so many years, she decided to be doing something else because of the transition in medicine. And she redefined herself as somebody who still helps people. And she's helping physicians and other professionals, but now teaching them how to leverage their assets as their expenses as assets. The other thing that we learned is that you have to be open, right? Your mindset to a different way of living, different things that come to you, opportunities, when to say yes to things. That's something that's going to be very important if you want to get out of that, I say the hamster wheel of the expenses and everything like that, everything that's happening in medicine, and also to new opportunities. The other thing is that she did is when I asked her, where did you learn these things that you're teaching everybody? She used the internet, right? She used what we call Google to learn about this, but she also looked for some extra coaching. And she joined groups that were specific for this type of event, using your credit cards as expenses. She's also created a group that's called Point Me to First Class. And that group, you can do with this strategy, you can do whatever you want for your life. Some people will want just to use the basics of it, like dip on it and see a little bit of what they can do. And some people will have a lot of credit cards that they are able to get. And this, it really, you have to understand the strategies of that. If you go to that group, Point Me to First Class, you can learn some of the strategies. You can share with others what they're doing. I have to tell you myself, I have not done it. I'm waiting for it. As I said, we have our business and we're using our credit cards for cash flow, but with her strategies that she can tell us, then she can travel better in these ways. One main strategy that she mentioned for everybody to do, which is something that I think is very important, regardless of what you're doing for personal or for professional expenses, you should get a credit card, and we're in the process of doing this. You should get a credit card where your points are transferable outside that credit card, because that seems to be the basics of this. If you're able to get a credit card and the recommendation is that every single time that you have a balance, you pay it off. You have to pay it off every month, because if you don't pay it off, then it accumulates, and we're not after credit card debt. At the end of the day, what we want to do is leverage those points. So you study the credit card that goes with what you are using the most. If you're somebody who does a lot of their shopping, supermarket, the gas station, not somebody who's going to be shipping a lot of things, you have to take a look at the fine print, what that credit card is for. If they're going to give you extra points for doing shipping, you don't want that credit card if you're not shipping, right, all day long. So that's going to be better for businesses that have products. So if you are somebody who has a product and you want to be shipping that product out of your house, I can tell you, like, we had Dr. For Green Cloud Apparel. She's the owner for Green Cloud Apparel, and then she ships out of her house, and she can use that type of credit card, and then there will be points. But then that's one area of the credit card that you want to use. Then the other thing is that, okay, so I got the credit card that gives me for either what I do the most of, which is either, I don't know, the shopping, the supermarket, or the gas station. And then you have, or the credit card that's going to give me the most for shipping, right? You choose whatever is good for you. And then the second part would be, is this credit card going to allow me to take those points out of the credit card and use them at the sites directly, where I can go and book directly from those airlines or hotels. That's going to be the first tip that we learned from her that she's doing. Other things that we've learned is that people are using their credit cards for expenses that we would normally not think about. Like paying for your gas, your electric, your water, all that stuff. If you can do it with your credit card that meets this criteria, then that would be best for you, because you have those points. Anyways, we have to do those expenses. The other thing is that there's some states that have saving programs for the children when they're going to college, and those states might allow you to use your credit card for that. That's something that she recently learned, and you can learn more about this in our podcast, Design Your Physician Life, and through her site. I'm still looking here to see if she's coming. I don't see her here in the asking. If you're here, Devon, please ask to come in. I don't see you there yet. Then you can actually, if you put thousands of dollars for savings for your children when they're going to go to college, you can put those through the credit card. And I've seen people who live in one state and they put these savings at a different state that allows for this, and then you have to figure all that out for yourself, for your actual a situation. But they're able to do that. So then these are expenses that you're going to have anyways, regardless of what, having the credit card or not. So those would be the steps. First, to get a credit card for your situation that allows you to gain the most points for what you do on a daily basis. Number two, that credit card allows you to get the points out of the credit card and use them, transfer them out into the websites that for the airlines or for the hotels that you're going to be using. And number three, doing expenses that you would normally do in your daily living, looking for them that you would normally do in the daily living, that you can put into the credit card so that you maximize it. Do you have to be a business owner to benefit from all of this? No, and she wasn't. If you look at her story, she was already doing these things before. I think, let's see, she had graduated from her residency. She was like a couple, 2-3 years into her life as an attending, and that's when she started to learn these things already. She wasn't a business owner. So this was only with their expenses, their daily expenses. So think about those. Those are tips. Regarding designing your physician life, things that we tell our people in our mastermind. We have a mastermind is basically a group of people with like-minded they're a group of like-minded who want to achieve a specific goal. In our case, we want our physicians to retake and remain in control of their physician lives. Through entrepreneurship, we found that many physicians are able to do this, and they're able to do this regardless of the type of entrepreneurship that they want to do. There's a lot of people who are doing passive income, so they're entrepreneurs as real estate investors, for example, or they invest in different businesses. There are some others that invest on a business, on themselves, like this, in this situation, who are physicians who have, but they have designed a life where they control the patient experience, they control their experience, they control their employees' experience, and that way they're not burned out, that they're able to provide better services for all of them. We also have physicians who are like within those clinics, they have built some sources of passive income because of the way that they have of other practitioners working for them, and even like buying their buildings and things like that. We have people who do products, we have people who do service, we have a lot of coaching. Dr. Devon Gimbel herself is a coach. That's her entrepreneurship, and that has allowed her to redesign her physician life and be happier, producing value to the ones who approach her. So we're very grateful for her to be there, and that's how you think about this. Look around you. If you're a physician, you really feel unhappy with the situation that's, you can call it, it's not evolution, you can call it regression of what's happening in medicine, where there's so many steps between the patients and ourselves. And what do you want to do? Do you want to keep servicing those patients? So if you want to keep servicing those patients, look at the people around you who are physicians and they are happy when they come to work. What are they doing that they're so happy? Either like they don't care about the system, but that's like the minority of us these days. Many of them will have ways of achieving happiness outside of medicine that allows them to come back into medicine and present themselves in a way that's more productive, that they are able to present happier to the patients, to their families, to themselves. And that's what we found through entrepreneurship. And that's what people like Dr. Gimbel have accomplished. So we're having transmission problems here for the last 15 minutes, and then I've been trying to wait for her. It's probably being, somewhat difficult for her to come in. I really appreciate that she was in our podcast, Design Your Physician Life, this week. Not only we had her through the last over a year, we've had many episodes where we discuss all these topics that I'm telling you. If you're in physician, we discuss about mindset, about designing your vision, about people who've had certain challenges, and now we determine if not things are hard, but if it's worth it, if it follows your values, if it follows your principles. It's important that as a physician we take the time outside of that medical world to really sit down and write these things down. If you write down what your principles are, what your values are, what your life looks like today, what you would like for each item of those to be, the how of doing that becomes much easier. And in our program, physicians come for the 6 months and we go through all those steps. We also help them, even like drinking water on a daily basis regularly is something that many times we forget about doing. We take care of many people, we don't necessarily take care of ourselves. So you have to take a step back, reevaluate your life, take the time, and then you have accountability partners. You have somebody who's there with you to help you do that change. In having a Facebook group like Point Me to First Class that Dr. Gimbel has, she has achieved that because she has a group that now she's able to coach, she's able to support, but that group also makes her accountable. Why? She has to grow all the time to be able to support so many thousands of members in her group. So that's something that she's had to do. She has to go and learn more. She has to get coaching for herself. She has to connect to be able to service those that she wants to serve. And in that way, she's been able to be free because she feels happy. She's found what she wants to do in life. Is she going to be doing this forever? You don't know if you're going to be doing something forever. When we're very young, we are told to decide on what we want to do when we grow up. And choosing medicine is something that we choose when we're so young. So think right now about somebody who's in their, let's say as a teenager, right? Would you trust a teenager we can trust, like, teenagers can be so valuable for so many things, but in such a way, like for such a career that's so long and all this stuff, it's something that's very, it's a, we're calling it a worthy challenge. So would you trust yourself as a teenager with this choice that you've made for your life? We have now new information as we go through our lives that will help us make better choices in the future. And being a physician doesn't have to be all that we are. And we've found in entrepreneurship, and I'm telling you this because the happiness is achieved by different things. And one of the things that really helps you achieve happiness is that you have some level of contribution and some level of, oh, there you are. She arrived. Okay. You're here. You arrived. But for some reason, I cannot bring you in. Oh, I'm going to approve you. Yes. She's here. I'm so happy. Okay. So let's see, approve that. But the point is that to be happier in medicine, if you have that sense of ownership about something, over something, then that's going to help you be happier. Hi, you made it.
Hi.
Yes.
I am so sorry. I have been trying to get in for like the last 20 minutes, wondering what has been going
so
wrong.
sorry.
So I'm glad I found you. Hi.
Yes, I'm so sorry. So welcome. So guys, remember, hashtag live, hashtag replay. We have here Dr. Devon Gimbel from Point Me
Hi,
to
everyone.
First Class. Yes, so I told everybody, because we were having this difficulty, I did give them some tips, and I'm going to review them with you. And then maybe we can go over a little challenge for them.
Yes.
Since you're here.
Sure.
Okay, so the first thing I told them, which I learned from you, was that first, get a credit card that goes with your expenses, right?
Yes.
If you're spending on shipping because you have a product, that's what you do. If you're just shopping at the supermarket or doing the gas station, that's what you do.
Absolutely.
Then the second one was, like, make sure that credit card transfers points out to the airlines. So correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're totally right. So many people will start with like one specific airline credit card, like say they live near a Delta hub, right? So they'll get a Delta credit card, which isn't a bad idea. But when you have like an airline specific credit card, you can only use the miles that you earn on that credit card with that airline. So you don't have access to the hundreds, of other airlines that fly all over the world. And so it's great to have exactly what you were saying, one of the credit cards that earns the transferable or flexible points, so that you're not locked into just one airline all the time, that you actually then have access to lots of different airlines, which means you have access to lots of different deals. If, for instance, Delta doesn't have a deal when you want to travel or where you want to go to, then it really stinks if that's your only option. But if you have these transferable points, all of a sudden you might have 10 different options of airlines you can book through. So yes, absolutely get one of those transferable points earning credit cards. Those are fantastic.
Then with the first point that I said, like finding out that credit card that really best suits you. If you don't have, if you don't have a business, you don't need a business like you did this without having a business the first time that you did it. But how do you find out how, for your expenses, to match your expenses to what that credit card will do for you?
Yeah, that's such a great question. There's not a lot of just like centralized databases, where it's like you can pull up, what is the best credit card if let's say you have a ton of like gas expenses, if you have to do a lot of commuting and you spend a lot of money on gas. There's no like one great centralized resource. And so one of the things I say is like, come and join a group that has a lot of people that have that knowledge, like join one of my Facebook groups, join another Facebook group. Honestly, there's a couple different ones that, are geared towards people learning about points. And that's where it's so easy to then just crowdsource that information. Like you can come into a group and say, hey, I have pretty high expenses on this one or two categories. Can someone tell me maybe some great fits of credit cards for me? And the wonderful thing about what I found about points and miles and travel communities is that we genuinely love talking about this. We love helping people with it. And so if someone comes in and they're on kind of the newer side of learning about how to do these things, like match themselves up with one great first credit card, it's so nice to be in a community where there are people who have a little more experience than you, who actually really love helping you kind of take those first steps. So you can Google it. I'm not sure how great the information is that you're just going to get from a random Google search. So ask someone who you can actually trust, whether it's a friend or family member who knows kind of what they're doing in this world, or come into a Facebook group where we love to help people with those types of questions.
Then the third tip I gave them was that to find expenses that they would normally do through a credit card, like their utilities, or those states that you told me that they accept the payments for savings for college for their kids, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There are so many expenses that you can use a credit card to pay for that I think people don't always think about. And so, especially when you are someone who has high expenses, again, either because you have high personal expenses to run your life, or you have a business and that business is incurring expenses. I think there are so many missed opportunities that people don't take advantage of just because there are some expenses that maybe in the past they've only paid, using a check or using a direct transfer from their bank. But first, just kind of getting really clear about, number one, just what are your expenses, on the personal side and or the business side, and then breaking down from there, okay, if I wanted to use a credit card, how many of these could I actually use my credit card to pay for exactly that purpose then of being able to earn points or miles for that expense?
So we have a little challenge. I think that you prepare one for us. Before we do that, guys, hashtag live, hashtag replay so that you can share this. And remember to visit our website, maxsalur.com. And you can visit Point Me to First Class on Facebook and online. So now, do you have a challenge for us, a little challenge for us?
So I don't have a very specific challenge for everyone because, again, it kind of depends on where you are in terms of your familiarity with these types of things. But one very basic challenge, and I just almost kind of alluded to it, is I really challenge everybody. If you don't already know exactly what you're spending and like how much and what you're spending it on, that is such a great first step for anybody who then wants to learn how to leverage their expenses to earn credit card points and miles. And so this is one thing that I love for people to do, is especially if you're someone who, is already in the habit of just, you pay off your bills every single month. And so maybe you don't actually track super closely, like how many dollars do you have going into each expense because you always pay all your expenses, is I challenge everybody to spend a little bit of time getting to know their expenses very, very well. And what I mean by that is pull up your actual bank statements and get an idea of, on a monthly or a yearly basis, how much money are you spending total, and how much money are you spending in maybe your top 3 or 4 categories of spend. So for you, understand what those are, because they're not going to look the same for everybody, and get a very clear picture of how much money are you actually putting towards that expense. Because once you do that challenge, you're going to have a much better idea, again, of where the next step is going to be in terms of how you can then match yourself up with the credit card or credit cards that are going to be the most beneficial for you in order to leverage those expenses to turn them into credit card points. So tell me what your thoughts are about that challenge, if it's something that you think is going to be useful for people, because of course I want to hear what might be useful for everybody.
That will be useful for anybody regardless, because it's not only about the credit card, it's knowing about how they can eventually achieve financial freedom, right?
Yeah.
And you cannot get there unless you do that exercise regardless. So that's one exercise that we teach our people to do in our mastermind. If you go through that list, and then not only going through that list, you can accumulate for types of expenses.
Yeah.
And then once you accumulate through the types of expenses, then you join a club like Point Me to First Class, a group like this, and then you're going to search there in the group, search for types of expenses, and then they'll tell you where you can find these credit cards that will go and align with your expense. So it will work, I think, perfectly for anybody. That's like the first step for anything that you do financially. If you've never done that, and even if you've done it, just redo it.
Yeah.
Like now, if you didn't know about
right?
this
Like
thing,
your patterns of spend might
yeah.
change, from year to year to year. And so I think that's a great idea, honestly, to always, I recommend, I do this for myself once a year, but I think it's really great to one time of year sit down and really get familiar, with your personal finance. I think it can only help you to make great decisions for yourself, regardless of what your financial goals are moving forward.
I think the challenges like these days we have with technology are precisely to know our expenses. When things were like, if you have the cash,